Welcome back to Life's Chillin'. My name is Avital, and this week's Parshat is Parshat Bo. And Parshat Bo continues off where last week's Parsha ended, and it has the final 3 plagues of the 10 plagues that were inflicted upon the Egyptian people before the Jews left. And so it goes through these 3 plagues, and Moses is in telling the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn male. It's a very dramatic telling. Moses is laying out for Pharaoh exactly how this 10th and final plague is going to occur. And Moses is telling Pharaoh about how it's going to happen just at midnight and how there's going to be this great cry in Egypt. Again, it's a very dramatic story that Moses is creating for Pharaoh. And then, interestingly, the narrative interrupts. And the narrative interrupts to tell us about Rosh Chodesh and the need to observe Pesach. So Rosh Chodesh is the new months, and it is the first mitzvah that the Jewish people are given. And then it tells us about Pesach, and that this is before even the Jews have had their exodus, before they've left Egypt. We're being told that we need to remember this night every single time that it happens, that this is something that needs to be remembered for generations, and that we're going to observe the holiday of Pesach. And it goes through and defines that it's a 7-day holiday, that the 1st and the 7th day are days when you don't do any work, and you have to get rid of all of the leaven in your house, and you need to eat matzah. And it's going through and telling us about the details of Pesach. And the Torah says, it says that this day shall become a remembrance for you, and you shall celebrate it as a festival for Hashem for your generations. As an eternal decree shall you celebrate it. So we're being told that not only we need to, but future generations, it's an eternal decree. Not only that the people who left Egypt need to remember this day, but future generations as well have to mark this as being such an important event and time. And it continues. It says, "It shall be when you come to the land that Hashem will give you, as he has spoken, you shall observe this service. And it shall be that when your children say to you, 'What is this service to you?' you shall say, 'It is a Pesach offering to Hashem, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians, but he saved our households.'" And with that, the narrative of the 10 plagues continues. It continues with the death of the firstborn and telling the story exactly how it was before this interruption to talk about Rosh Chodesh and observing Passover. And what I thought was interesting, going back to that last verse that I read you about how it is that basically when our children, when future generations will ask us, why are we observing Passover, that we need to tell them, go back to remembering this important day in Egypt when they were saved, when the Jewish people were taken out of Egypt from slavery and brought out into the desert and ultimately to the land of Israel. That night when they went free is something so incredible and so remarkable that not only that generation, but their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and even now in 2023, we still have to remember this exodus from Egypt. It was something so great for our broader family and us as a nation that it's something we always have to mark and that we always have to remember. And I thought that the Torah telling us this, that again, it's the eternal decree that when our children ask us why we're doing this, the sort of forward thinking about important dates led me to think about that it is so very important to mark special occasions, not only for ourselves, but for our descendants. If you look at the Jewish calendar, right, we have days like the Day of Remembrance, the day that remembers the Holocaust Remembrance Day, Israel Independence Day. We have these days that we mark every single year for generations, even well after an event has passed. Because in Judaism, I think we have this sense of history and of our place in time, recognizing that this is an important event right now and that it's so important that future generations, it needs to be on the calendar every year for future generations to recognize its importance and its value and see its magnitude as well. And it's something that we could carry over into our own lives. If you think about on our personal lives, probably the things that we remember are birthdays and anniversaries. But there are probably other things in our lives that are momentous occasions, that were transformative moments in our life, that we should also be marking. Not only we should be marking them, but we should be making a point for future generations, for our children and grandchildren, to say, this was an important day in our family history, in our personal lineage. This was an important day. And this is how we mark it, and this is how we celebrate it or remember it. As an example, if you have grandparents who didn't come from America, now you're living in America, you could say, this was the day when our family left whatever country they came to and came to America and started this life here. This was the day you moved to Israel. This was the day that grandma made Aliyah and she moved to Israel. And now because of her, all of these things happen, and look how many children and grandchildren and how far spread her reach has been throughout Israel. There are these important occasions in our lives that the Torah is telling us it's important for us and for future generations to mark these occasions on an annual basis. And so I think that's a very beautiful lesson we can learn from this week's Parsha. I wish you all a wonderful week, and Shabbat Shalom, and I look forward to speaking with you next time.